Oh, thank you. Why, thank you, bringing me chips.
Oh, no.
Wait a minute. What?
What? You see what I have to put up with?
Hey there! Welcome back. Thanks for watching another one of my top 1000 vinyl videos, and this is where we're picking out the top 1000 vinyl LPs from my rather extensive record collection, and these are the 1000 that I think are best. And such is the extensiveness of the collection that it's probably got a few that you like as well. Now keep on watching. We've got 3 more to go into the list. And first up, I've picked an album that, again, only comparatively recently did I manage to find a copy of this on vinyl, but I do remember it when it came out. And this is Hello Nasty by the Beastie Boys. Now, we've already had License to Ill in the top 1000, and certainly License to Ill is a great album. But this one has particular connotations for me insofar as it came out roughly about the time, yeah, it did. This came out when I was in university, and I remember it being out, and it's another one of those albums, a bit like Radiohead's OK Computer, where I knew it was out, I had copies in my hand on vinyl, and never quite got round to buying it, usually because there was something else that I wanted just that little bit more, and then, you know, very quickly vinyl sold out, no chance of getting another copy. Now, I mean, this was the dearth of the late 90s, when vinyl was very much a dying format, and people like me were trying to keep it alive, but it was, you know, getting quite hard. And it's only comparatively recently that a lot of these classic albums have reappeared on vinyl as the format has swelled in popularity. But this one is just very eye-catching cover for me, and I just remember it so well from the time. It's certainly well into the Beastie Boys' career, but they haven't really lost their edge or sound, and they're still very distinctive, this sort of like hip-hop, rap kind of sound. And the big single off this, Intergalactic, and it's well worth going and seeing that video, because it's a great video, very sort of Godzilla versus the massive robot type thing, and it's brilliant, and there's such a level of humour in not just that video, but all the Beastie Boys videos. I just love it. It's so much fun. You can really feel that you're having that level of fun that they are, and it's just a great album. And it's one of those that just so belongs in any record collection. Any serious record collection needs a copy of this. Now we can see the band there, looking a bit older than they do in the earlier stuff, in this sort of sardine tin. And then we've got the sun in the background. On the back, I love this picture. It's very reminiscent of some of those Ladybird books, don't you think? And we've got 22 tracks on this. I mean, they don't skimp. 22 tracks of Beastie Boys goodness, spread across 2 different discs. So we've got in here a gatefold, and it's a very shiny sort of card paper. It's brilliant. I love it. Easy wipe clean in case you get too energetic about gushing with this. But we've got lovely inner artwork there, and just peer over the top. Lovely inner artwork. Some kind of spaceship. And that goes with the theme that's kind of running through this album. Now let's pull these discs out and see what else have we got here. Again, because this is a recent re-release, we've got a pretty heavy-duty vinyl. 2 discs. Again, we've got artwork and designs on here. Picture of, I think that's the moon. And then it's a bit, again, it's like those Ladybird books of geology or Ladybird books of astronomy in the kind of feel that they've gone for. And again, they're in like the Ladybird book of the hipster we've got on the shelf up there. Great fun. We'll pull the discs out. It's a very heavy grade virgin vinyl. The tracks are well spaced out, so we're getting a good sound out of that. And again, we've got these, I think the inner labels do match the sleeves that they go into. there's not really much else that I can say about this. It's certainly, I think it's probably at the point that the Beastie Boys, I wouldn't say the peak, but they were coming to the end of the plateau where there was just album after album of great stuff. And you know, they weren't a prolific band, but certainly after this, I think things went a little bit downhill. And sadly, one of the members of the Beastie Boys recently passed away. And I really felt quite sad at the time, and also a little bit scared because he wasn't that much older than me. You know, it just sort of brings in a little bit of mortality. And when you look back and see how young they looked in some of these videos, it is really, really sad. Now, the next album that I've got is one which I added to the collection because it just seemed like an obvious omission. Now, this album is Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys. It's not beat around the bush, beat around the beach bush, but certainly it's an album that is universally pretty much rated as being one of those pivotal albums of the 1960s. And I managed to find a copy, reissue on vinyl, and it wasn't too badly priced. I think I paid about 12, 13 quid, which in this day and age is actually quite cheap for a brand new vinyl LP. And it's pretty much as it came out in the day, but it is pressed on nice heavy-duty quality vinyl. And we've got the more modern Capitol Records label there on the middle of the disc. It's got all the tracks on, and it's certainly been mastered nicely when you listen to it. And this is the point where I have to have a little bit of a speech about this. When I listened to it, I think the best way of describing it is I felt underwhelmed. It didn't really stand out to me as anything special. But here's the proviso, here's the caveats, as politicians love to call these little things. I think this album is best listened to with a view of what was around when it came out. And you have to remember that this album was totally different from what came before. It pushed the boundaries of pop music, and it enabled groups to kind of build on what it started in a way that, you know, somebody has to be the pioneer. Somebody has to be there first. And in many ways, the Beach Boys were there at the beginning, and this album has made so much that came after it possible. They all built on this. This is the foundation that the huge towering skyscraper of steel and glass musical goodness that has been, in quite a lot of cases, built upon. And without this, we wouldn't have them. And when I listened to it, I had all the baggage of best part of 60 years of subsequent albums that have built on this. And when you try and think, well, what would it sound like if I'd never heard any of that stuff? And I'd only heard the stuff like the Skiffle, the Lonnie Donegan, and, you know, maybe a bit of Elvis Presley, that kind of stuff. And, you know, Dave Brubeck, things like that had been around at the time. And then this came out. And when you view it through that kind of polarisation, you see it in a whole different light. And this really is a pivotal album in musical history. And certainly I would not begrudge owning a copy of this in my record collection. It's certainly an album that in many respects was a product of its time, but it was also ahead of its time. And I'm actually quite pleased to have it in my record collection. And it's certainly one that my father has been showing an interest in getting a copy of, because he is a little bit of a secret Beach Boys fan. The next album here, this is one that I really did get more into, and I kind of went out and searched for a copy of this album because Zoe is a big fan of them. And this is The Cure, and the album is Disintegration. Now, going back to the 1980s into the 1990s, I can't really say that I was a big Cure fan. You know, I was aware of some of their more popular hits, like Love Cats, and wasn't massively impressed. It was background noise to me. But this album is one that, when I listen to it now, I kind of feel that I missed out all those years of assuming that The Cure were out of the same mold as Love Cats and things like that. And this album, it really does make me feel of a lot of the other albums sort of around that time or shortly after, certainly things like the Cranes, things like that. And it's, I suppose it's the sort of the beginning of the goth period, born out of the new romantics and if you go further back, the punk era. But certainly it's got an almost slightly melancholy edge to it, but not in an overdone, woe is me sort of way that the Smiths seem to be plagued by. And all in all, it goes together to make quite a great package. I mean, certainly the album cover there, it reminds me a lot of the Fields of the Nephilim. And I think we reviewed Elysium by them, but if not, it's certainly one that will be coming up shortly. This again is a reissue. There's a lot of reissues on the market at the moment. It is a gatefold, but I've left it in its polythene sleeve, partially because the sticky labels that they put on them, I kind of want to keep that with it. But they've stuck that to the cellophane. Most annoying. So I'm going to have a quick peer down inside and see. Can I see? It looks to be images, is the best way I can describe it. Weird, sort of artsy images, 1980s style. So let's pull out the sleeves. They're quite a tight fit here. Got 2 discs. Again, very heavy grade of vinyl. And I suspect that the original release of this may not. Let's have a look. It's 180 gram, heavyweight, double vinyl, digitally remastered from the original master tapes by Robert Smith. A complete 12-song album on double vinyl for the first time, including lyric beds. Right. So that probably means that if you have an original copy of this, it's only a single disc version. But we've got a little bit of notes there, and these are a little bit more specific to this particular reissue. It says here reissued album credits, album release 2010. So I'm presuming that this was a 2010 re-release and it was remastered for that period. We've got lyrics on the other side, and if I can find the disc, where are we? Black vinyl, really heavy grade, and we've got 2 songs on that side, 3 songs on that side, so they're really well spread out. So we got really good fidelity from this recording. And what I find interesting is, if you've watched the film Ant-Man, there's a bit in there where this sort of the Siri clone picks up the shouty of the fight, and it says, now playing Disintegration by The Cure. Now, that track isn't Disintegration. It's actually... The album's called Disintegration. There is a track confusingly called Disintegration on this, but in the film, when it started playing, the track it's actually playing, if I can find the sleeve artwork, is Plain Song. That's a great track. I do love that. And the album continues as it needs to go on from that first track, and it really is really good. I'm just having a look on here, see if there's any of their big name tracks. And actually, I'm not a big follower of The Cure. So I'm just looking on here, and actually there's probably some tracks on here which I would recognise from memories of hearing odd tracks on the radio. But in terms of their well-known singles, I'm not really quite sure whether there's any on here. Certainly it doesn't have Love Cats, which really would probably ruin the album because it's against the complete feel of this particular package. Anyway, there we are. We've got 3 more videos put into the pile. And I know that we did have a big gap when I wasn't putting out any of these final videos. And they were a slow burner, but certainly we're getting a bit of a bigger following. So I hope we're going to keep you along for the ride. Thank you very much for watching this. Don't forget to like this video, share it too. And this is me, Jenny Kirk, saying until next time, you take very good care of yourself. Bye for now. If you're wondering what that incessant whine has been throughout this and the last 2 vinyl videos, it's not actually Zoe, but you'd be forgiven for thinking it was. But it's actually the fan oven in the other room. I never thought she had me turn my computer off. She said, oh, because it makes a noise and the video picks it up. But actually, her fan oven, well, I say our fan oven, makes more racket than the blooming computer does.